Andri, a teenager who lives with his parents and an older sister named Tere, leads a rather nomadic life. His family frequently relocates due to his father's job. In 2005, they moved from a city in Kalimantan to Jakarta. Andri was 13 years old at the time, and his sister was already in college. Andri wasn't particularly fond of these constant moves, as he had to repeatedly adapt to new environments and schools. In fact, his family had also moved from a small town to a larger city in Kalimantan back in 2000. Andri's family resides in a moderately sized house in South Jakarta. The living room is quite spacious and serves as the central hub of the house, with doors leading to all other rooms. A staircase ascends to the second floor, but the rooms there are very small, maybe about 8 meters square. The yard is fairly large, with 2 small gardens located at the entrance gate and near the garage. The house is situated at the end of a dead-end alley. Adjacent to the house, there is a neglected garden, overgrown with dense trees, giving it the appearance of a small forest. This garden is separated from the Andri family's house by a 3-meter-high concrete walls. However, the whole garden remains clearly visible from the second-floor veranda. Nothing strange happened to their first day in the new house, and none of them had any negative feelings about it. The rent was reasonable for that time. The first thing that caught Andri's attention when he first entered the house was a piano. It was in the living room, a striking feature in an otherwise empty space. A thick layer of dust covered the piano, suggesting that the house had been vacant for quite some time. At the time, that was all he could think about, but he was eager to try the piano, even though he couldn't play it. However, he had to help clean the house and put things in their proper places first. Even a full day wasn't enough to clean the entire house, let alone the outside.
The important thing is that the bedrooms are tidy so we can rest tonight,
Andri's father said. Andri's bedroom was right next to his parents' bedroom, with a connecting door. To the left of his bedroom was a toilet, and the toilet door was right next to his bedroom door when entering from the living room. His room had one window that overlooked the side garden, which connected to the garden at the entrance gate. There was an empty room right next to the toilet, while Tera chose to occupy the upstairs room. Night fell, and after a full day of cleaning the house, Andri was very tired and decided to go to sleep first. Although it was a bit far, he could still hear his parents and sister chatting on the outside terrace. But something strange happened. There was a knocking sound coming from the window of his room. Andri was a little scared because he was sure all the other family members were on the terrace, and even as he heard the knocking, he could still hear each of them talking. In no time, Andri rushed out of the room.
Dad, someone is knocking on my window from outside,
Andri shouted. His father rushed to the side garden, but there was nothing there.
Oh, it's probably just lizards or insects making noise on the window. There are a lot of plants there,
his father said casually. Ter then teasing her younger brother about being a coward. As Andri stood on the terrace at that moment, he realized that the house was actually quite creepy, especially when he looked at the large trees that were clearly visible in the darkness. Soon they all went inside and prepared to sleep. Thankfully, nothing else strange happened that night. Morning came, and it was time for Andri and the rest of his family to continue cleaning the other rooms. It was then that he noticed that the kitchen, located at the back of the house, was semi-outdoor. The top part was not fully covered by a roof, and he could still see the top of the overgrown garden. There was also a locked room that had to be passed through to get to the kitchen. No one knew what that room was, and the previous owner hadn't mentioned it or even given them the key.
Maybe it's a storage room for the owner's belongings?
His mother guessed. And it made sense that it could be a storage room for the previous owner's personal belongings that were difficult to move. Finally, the other rooms were cleaned, including the garage and dining room.
It's time to play the piano,
Andri exclaimed excitedly. After trying it for a while, the piano still worked normally, but Andri couldn't play it. As evening approached, after taking a shower, Andriy sat relaxed in front of the television in the living room, right behind the wall of his room that was adjacent to the room door. He was watching his favorite cartoon when suddenly,
Boo!
Ter screamed by his ear and slapping his shoulder. He was startled and a bit annoyed with his sister for scaring him like that.
Tere, you should just go back to Jogja and continue your studies, rather than just annoying me here.
He said sarcastically. At that time, his older sister was a college student studying in Jogja, and she was only in Jakarta because she was on vacation. Meanwhile, Andriy would start his new school the following week. Luckily, the school was not far from his new home. He could walk there in about 5 minutes. That night, nothing strange happened, except Andriy was startled by the sound of geckos chirping. Apparently, it was the first time he had heard the sound of geckos. The sound came from the direction of the kitchen, and after they checked it together, they found several large geckos on the kitchen wall that bordered the adjacent garden. The appearance of these geckos made Andriy a bit afraid of the kitchen because of their large size and considerable number. About 5 or 6 geckos in there. What scared him more was the possibility of a gecko falling on his head and biting him. So the kitchen was the area he visited least in the house. A few days later, Andriy's family life in the house was very peaceful, until something strange happened that day. Even made Andriy, Tere, and his mother felt odd. That afternoon, his father wasn't at home because he was at work. When they were all doing activities in the house, Andriy and his sister clearly heard his plastic ball being dragged and kicked in the garage. They were watching TV and quickly moved towards the connecting door from the living room to the garage. They were both surprised to see the ball moving, as if it was being kicked and bouncing off the wall. A few seconds later, their mother also came out through the front door to look around. Perhaps someone had entered without permission, but there was no one or anything outside, and the gate was closed. Andriy felt a little scared, so he always followed Tere, who was also scared because it happened right in front of their eyes. That night, when their father came home, they told him about it, but he responded casually.
It's okay, it's normal. There are many big trees next to the house. Maybe the spirits want to get acquainted and play with you all.
His father said with no expression. Andriy was a bit offended with the response, and unexpectedly, Tere also protested her father's words.
But what if someone or something creepy appears later?
Tere said anxiously.
Well, just ignore it. They'll stop eventually.
Her father replied again. But they thinks, what else could they do? They couldn't kick them out, and they couldn't hit them. So in the end, they tried to make peace with the situation.